You know, one of the biggest misconceptions people have is that being single somehow means you're incomplete. Society tells you that if you're not married by a certain age, something must be wrong. But from an Islamic perspective, that's not true at all. Your relationship status doesn't define your worth, Allah does. And when you truly internalize that, your entire outlook on life begins to shift. When we say staying single can be a blessing, we're not romanticizing loneliness, we're recognizing divine wisdom. Every situation in life, whether it's marriage, singleness, success, or struggle, unfolds according to Allah's perfect plan. The Quran reminds us, it may be that you dislike something while it is good for you, and it may be that you love something while it is bad for you. Allah knows, and you do not know. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:216. This verse alone is enough to reshape how we view our personal circumstances. What you think is a delay might actually be divine protection. What feels like a void might be a space Allah has reserved for something better or for your own growth. There's a psychological comfort that comes from accepting this. The moment you stop viewing singleness as a punishment and start seeing it as a placement intentionally designed by the one who knows your heart better than you do, you gain peace. You stop comparing your timeline to others because you understand that no two destinies are identical. Some people find companionship early, others later. Some thrive in marriage, others thrive in service, learning, or solitude. The real question isn't why am I single, but rather, what does Allah want me to learn in this phase? Think about it. Every delay in your life, every unanswered dua, every door that didn't open, it was never random. Allah doesn't forget you for a second. Sometimes He withholds what you want because He's protecting you from what would break you. Other times, He's preparing you for something greater than you could have planned for yourself. In both cases, He's blessing you even if it doesn't feel like it at the moment. From a philosophical point of view, this is a lesson in surrender, not in defeat, but in peace. When you stop fighting the decree of Allah and instead flow with it, you align yourself with reality as it truly is, and that alignment brings serenity. You begin to see that your value doesn't fluctuate with your relationship status. It remains constant because it's anchored in your connection with your Creator. So, if you're single, remind yourself, you are not waiting for life to begin. Life is happening right now, exactly as Allah intends it to. Use this time to strengthen your faith, refine your purpose, and trust that what is meant for you will never miss you. Because when you trust Allah's timing, you stop living in anxiety and start living in contentment. And that's the beauty of it sometimes. The greatest blessing isn't in what Allah gives, but in what He withholds. One of the greatest gifts that comes with being single is time to truly understand yourself, to reconnect with your purpose, and most importantly, to strengthen your relationship with Allah. We often underestimate how valuable this period of solitude can be. In a world that constantly glorifies being in relationships, it takes real spiritual maturity to see the blessing in being alone. But when you do, you realize that this phase isn't an empty waiting room before marriage, it's a sacred classroom where Allah is teaching you who you really are. When you're single, your energy isn't divided between responsibilities, emotional commitments, or family duties. That's not to say marriage is a distraction, far from it. Marriage is a beautiful sunnah and a powerful means of spiritual growth. But singleness, in its own way, is also a divine opportunity for tazkiyah, for purification of the soul. It's a time when you can focus on healing your wounds, nurturing your faith, and identifying your strengths and weaknesses without the pressure of pleasing anyone but Allah. From a psychological perspective, solitude allows self-awareness to flourish. Many people jump from one relationship to another because they're afraid to sit with themselves to confront their thoughts, their patterns, their insecurities. Yet it's only through solitude that you gain clarity about what drives you, what limits you, and what truly fulfills you. You begin to understand your emotional triggers, your spiritual gaps, and your moral compass. You realize that peace is not found in people. It's cultivated within yourself through your connection with Allah. Philosophically, this phase can be viewed as a divine reset, a pause that allows you to realign your priorities and reorient your life around what truly matters. When you're single, you have the freedom to invest in personal growth, education, community work, and ibadah without constraint. You can wake up for tahajjud without worrying about disturbing anyone. You can dedicate long hours to learning, volunteering, or traveling for the sake of knowledge. These are opportunities many people later wish they had appreciated more when they were single. This time also teaches you emotional independence, the ability to be content with yourself without depending on others for validation. And that's crucial, because if you don't learn to be whole alone, you'll always seek wholeness in others. Relationships built on neediness often crumble, while those built on completeness flourish. When you enter marriage from a place of emotional maturity, you don't look for someone to complete you. You look for someone to complement you. So, if you find yourself single, don't waste this season longing for what isn't here yet. Use it as a space to grow, to reflect, to build your inner strength, deepen your connection with Allah until He becomes your greatest source of peace and fulfillment. Because when you find yourself with Allah, you're never truly alone. And remember this, the best time to prepare for the next chapter of your life is now, not by chasing people, but by chasing purpose. Another beautiful blessing that often hides behind the state of being single is the incredible amount of freedom it gives you. Freedom not just in the worldly sense, but in the spiritual sense too. You have flexibility in your time, your focus, and your commitments. You can shape your days around what truly brings you closer to Allah, without the added responsibilities that come with family life. And that freedom, when used wisely, can turn into a powerful tool for growth, service, and contribution. Sometimes we underestimate the value of time and energy. When you're single, you have both in abundance compared to when you're managing the demands of marriage, children, and home. This is your moment to channel those blessings into something meaningful, into studying, volunteering, mentoring, helping your parents, or engaging in community work. Every act of service done sincerely for the sake of Allah becomes an investment in your hereafter. The Prophet said, "The most beloved people to Allah are those who are most beneficial to others." Imagine that the measure of how close you are to Allah is tied not to how much you receive from others, but to how much you give. From a psychological point of view, acts of service have a transformative effect on the soul. When you help others, you step outside the narrow walls of your own concerns and enter a world of empathy and purpose. You stop focusing on what you lack and start appreciating what you have. You realize that even without a spouse, your life is full of opportunities to make a difference. And in that realization, your heart begins to soften, your anxiety eases, and your perspective widens. Giving has a healing power that receiving never could. Philosophically, service is the highest expression of gratitude. When you use your freedom and your blessings to uplift others, you're essentially saying, "Ya Allah, I'm thankful for what you've given me and I want to share it." It's a form of worship that doesn't require a specific time or place. Whether you're visiting the sick, mentoring a younger person, feeding the hungry, or simply offering a listening ear, these small acts of kindness echo far beyond the moment. They become part of your legacy, and here's something profound: when you dedicate yourself to serving others for the sake of Allah, He fills your heart with contentment. You begin to see that true fulfillment doesn't come from being in a relationship or achieving worldly milestones. It comes from being useful, from knowing that your existence benefits creation. Even in your solitude, you can be a source of light. Even in your singleness, you can bring joy to countless hearts. So, don't let the absence of one blessing blind you to the abundance of others. You have time, health, energy, and a heart full of potential. Use them well, because when you serve others sincerely for the sake of Allah, you'll find that He serves your soul with peace in return. And perhaps the most beautiful irony of all is this: sometimes the best way to find fulfillment is to stop seeking it and start giving it. Sometimes we see people rushing into relationships just to escape the feeling of being alone. They convince themselves that any companionship is better than solitude, but the truth is, not every relationship is a blessing. Some are tests and others are traps. When Allah keeps you single, it might not be deprivation, it might be divine protection. Protection from heartbreak, from sin, from disappointment, or even from a marriage that could destroy your peace and faith. What looks like a closed door may actually be a shield that Allah has placed between you and harm. Many people today idealize relationships, influenced by movies, social media, and cultural expectations. We see highlight reels of happy couples, but not the struggles that happen behind closed doors. So when someone is single, they often feel left out, as if they're missing something essential. But if we could see what Allah sees, we would often thank Him for what didn't happen. Sometimes Allah withholds a person from your life because He knows they would pull you away from Him. Other times, He removes someone from your life because that connection would have led to heartbreak or spiritual decline. In both cases, the absence is mercy, not misfortune. From a psychological standpoint, being single can give you a chance to break destructive patterns before they repeat. Many people enter relationships carrying emotional wounds, insecurities, or dependency issues that they've never addressed. Without healing, those wounds simply get transferred onto the next person. But when you take time to be alone and reflect, you give yourself the space to identify those wounds and work on them. You begin to recognize your boundaries, your values, and your worth, and that self-awareness protects you from settling for less than what you deserve. Philosophically, protection is one of the most underrated blessings of life. We often praise Allah for what He gives, but rarely for what He keeps away. Think about it. How many near misses, unseen dangers, and emotional disasters has He saved you from? Just because you can't see the harm doesn't mean it wasn't there. When something doesn't work out, a proposal falls through, a relationship ends, or marriage gets delayed, it's easy to feel disheartened. But in truth, it's Allah redirecting you from something that could have been your undoing. His no is often a greater mercy than His yes. And that's the level of trust a believer is called to have, to know that Allah's wisdom is at work even in your disappointments. When you view singleness through this lens, it stops being a burden and becomes a blessing. You start to see your solitude not as rejection, but as refinement, Allah shaping you, protecting you, and preparing you for something better. So, if you ever feel lonely or left behind, remind yourself, Allah hasn't forgotten you. He's protecting you from what would have harmed you until what's meant for you arrives at the perfect time. Because sometimes the heartbreak you never experienced is the biggest mercy you ever received. One of the greatest spiritual lessons that comes with staying single is learning tawakkul, true trust in Allah. It's easy to say, I trust Allah, when life goes as planned, when the doors open exactly when we expect them to. But real tawakkul is tested when things don't unfold according to our timeline, when we're praying, waiting, hoping, yet life remains still. That's where faith deepens. That's where belief transforms from words into lived conviction. For many people, singleness becomes a test of patience and trust. You make dua, you see others move ahead, and you wonder, when will it be my turn? But what if your turn is now not to receive what you want, but to grow into the person who can handle it when it comes? You see, Allah doesn't delay to deny. He delays to prepare. Every waiting period has a purpose. Every moment of longing is an opportunity to build a stronger heart, one that relies on Him alone. Psychologically, this phase teaches emotional independence. It challenges you to find peace not in external validation, but in your inner state and your relationship with Allah. When you anchor your happiness to people, circumstances, or status, it becomes fragile, it fluctuates with every change in your life. But when your contentment is rooted in Allah, it becomes stable, unshakable. You no longer need someone else's presence to feel complete, because your heart is already connected to the source of completeness. This doesn't mean you stop desiring marriage or companionship. Those are natural, even noble desires. But you learn to desire them through Allah, not instead of Allah. You trust that when the time is right, what's meant for you will arrive effortlessly. The Prophet said, "Know that what missed you was never meant for you, and what reached you was never going to miss you." That one statement, if truly internalized, frees the soul from so much unnecessary anxiety. From a philosophical point of view, tawakkul is about alignment, aligning your inner world with divine reality. It means doing your part, making dua, taking action, but ultimately leaving the outcome in the hands of the one who knows all. It's the recognition that control is an illusion. We plan, but Allah decides. And once you accept that, you stop resisting life and start flowing with it. You start to see that even in moments of uncertainty, you are being carried, not abandoned. So, every time you feel that ache of longing, let it remind you of your dependence on Allah. Let it push you closer to Him, not further away. Use that space to strengthen your sabr and deepen your gratitude, because when Allah is your anchor, you can weather any storm. And perhaps the most profound truth of all is this: when you finally learn to trust Allah fully, you realize that you were never waiting for a person, you were waiting to find peace with His plan. Every stage of life that Allah places us in carries both a test and a blessing. Whether you're single, married, divorced, or widowed, every condition has a divine wisdom behind it. None of these stages are permanent, and none of them define your worth. What defines you is how you respond to them with faith, patience, and gratitude. When you truly understand that, you stop viewing your current state as an obstacle and start seeing it as an opportunity to draw closer to Allah. You see, life is never static. The circumstances you have today will not be the same tomorrow. The Quran constantly reminds us that this world is a place of change and fluctuation. We alternate the days among the people. Surah Al-Imran 3, 140. Sometimes you're in a phase of abundance, other times you face limitation. Sometimes you're surrounded by people, other times Allah grants you solitude. But every phase, if embraced with the right mindset, becomes a means of spiritual elevation. If you are single today, that is your test, but also your blessing. It might be the time Allah has set aside for you to strengthen your faith, refine your character, and focus on what truly matters. If you were to marry, that would become your new test: patience, responsibility, compassion. If you were to lose something you love, that too would be a test of endurance, trust, and surrender. The point is, your stage in life is not random. It's a divinely crafted moment designed for your personal growth and spiritual awakening. From a psychological perspective, contentment doesn't come from changing your circumstances. It comes from changing how you perceive them. You can be single and miserable, or single and fulfilled. The difference lies in perspective. When you focus on what's missing, you live in resentment. But when you focus on what Allah has given you in this moment, your health, your freedom, your ability to worship, you find peace. Contentment isn't a passive state. It's an active choice to see Allah's mercy even when life feels incomplete. Philosophically, this is what it means to live with ihsan, to do your best, and to see beauty in every decree of Allah. Every stage of life has its unique form of worship. When you're single, your worship may be in patience and service. When you're married, it may be in compassion and sacrifice. When you face loss, it may be in gratitude and trust. The wise believer doesn't wait for the perfect situation to live meaningfully. They make every situation meaningful by responding with faith. So, if you find yourself in a season you didn't choose, don't rush to escape it. Ask instead, what is Allah teaching me here? Because He doesn't make mistakes, He makes moments that shape you into who you're meant to become. And remember this, every stage in life, no matter how temporary, is sacred when lived with sincerity. The real blessing isn't in where you are, it's in how you meet Allah through it.